In today's video, our goal is to take my big block muscle truck with a hurt and smoking engine from this to this. Have you ever felt like you've taken one step forward and about 10 steps back? That's how I feel currently with my 1980 Dodge truck. Now when I bought it, the 400 engine was ruined and I swapped it with another 400 from a Cordoba. And while we were there, we added a new camshaft, timing chain, gaskets, and a nice torque converter to match our 294 gears. Now while building my shop, this truck unfortunately got put on the back burner. But in our last video, we got it back out and running. So we did what any smart person would do and ripped out that perfectly good 400 in favor of a used but rebuilt 383 HP off of Facebook Marketplace. It had ported heads, a 509 cam, oil-through push rods, and a high-rise intake. And to match that, we tossed in a 3500 stall converter and 391 gears from my dad's Richard Petty shop truck. While I was inspecting the engine and reassembling it, I mistakenly dropped all of the lifters out of it. So instead of taking the chance of wiping a cam lobe by putting lifters in the wrong spot, I purchased new ones, added assembly lube, primed the engine, and broke in the new lifters how I do any camshaft. All was well, the engine ran great, until somehow the next day we started losing cylinders when push rods began falling out at random. I felt defeated and confused after the last video. There's smoke rolling out of the exhaust of this engine, but today we figure out what went wrong, and at the same time we put this muscle truck back on the road where it belongs. All I've got to do now is find Briar. Where the heck is he? Oh, there he is. Briar. What are you doing?
I'm trying to fish some new parts. The engine's bumming me out.
New parts out here? Like, in the field?
I'm trying my best, okay?
What are you expecting to catch out here?
Anything at this point.
I mean, have you caught anything at all?
No, not anything.
Well, as crazy as this seems, I think I have an idea.
Oh, really?
Have you tried Fishing Clash?
No, I haven't.
Today's sponsor is Fishing Clash. Do you love fishing and being outdoors? Do you want to take your favorite hobby on the go with your phone? Then look no further, because Fishing Clash is the all-in-one game with a variety of species with multiple options for lures, equipment, and licenses. They even have the all-new clan games features, including building your own fishing village, global fish locations, competitive gameplay, equipment upgrades, and so many customization options. And all new for 2024, Fishing Clash has become an official sponsor of Major League Fishing. You can participate in some of the same U.S. locations in-game where you can take part in virtual competitions and win in-game rewards. You think you got it figured out now?
I think I have the perfect cast. Golly, that's a big one. Look at all that lift.
So don't wait. Follow Fishing Clash on Instagram and Facebook, then download the game by using my link in the description or scan the QR code and use my special code McCool to get a special $20 value reward, including a unique avatar for free. Well, the engine is back on the stand here, and a lot of bad things. So over on this side, which is the driver's side, this is the non-problem side, that one feels a little bit of a weird cut. That one's concave. It might be hard to see, but it's definitely stopped rotating. So these lifters have to rotate in the bore so that way they don't wear, and that one did. So that one's gone. This one I think was on its way. This one feels pretty good. I don't think it's a problem. This one, it was on its way. This one feels pretty good. This one, it feels pretty good. Over here, good. And then over here, that one probably close. Then over on this side is our real problem havers. So we've got, that one felt like it was on its way. That one feels pretty good. This one was our problem one right here. As you can see, this is the one that would not pump up anymore. So the cam just decided not to work. It basically, what I think happened was it was running fine, but then this one stopped spinning, and that caused it to burn a hole in the bottom of it, and that's what made it lose its pressure. See, I can push it down. So that was the problem there. This one feels pretty good. This one, that one was on its way. It's actually a little concave already. And this one, yeah, it's toast. Might be kind of hard to see on camera, but it's very worn. And then this one feels pretty good. So we've got about half of them are shot, or more maybe. It's bad. So what happened, I don't know. I used a break-in lube. I used zinc additive. You know, I primed it ahead of time. I did my normal process that I always do in cam break-ins, and something happened to cause it to not work. I don't know what, but I think this was not getting proper oil because the cam is bone dry. There was no oil in the top here. I mean, while we were sitting there making it run, I didn't see any oil pooling up over here like you normally would, which is strange to me. And then this one, I mean, I don't know what happened. They all pumped up except for that one. That one lost its prime just because it, you know, burned a hole in it. So the cam it's toast, unfortunately. With it looking like that on most of those, the cam is gone. So we're gonna have to replace that. But I would reuse this engine. Over here, look at this. Now that's bad. So I didn't have gaskets on this because I knew I was gonna take them back off. I just wanted the exhaust to be redirected down. But, you know, we had a leak right here, nothing crazy. Had a leak right here, nothing crazy. But all the exhaust ports are dry. It was running a little rich, except for this one. So look at this. This thing is full of oil. It's dark, I'm sorry, but you kind of get the idea. It is full of oil. But that's not the one that had the wiped cam lobe. So that tells me that it's unrelated. Like, look how much oil was running down the engine. And that's why the spark plug kept fouling, because every time it would ignite, it's burning oil and it's just fouling it out, and there's oil burning somewhere. But if there's no oil in the top end, it has to be in the bottom end. So the amount of smoke tells me that there was probably a ring that gave way. We can pull the head back off and just check since the head gasket's already toast anyway, but that's bad. Like, it is packed full. See how shiny it is in comparison? This one's dry, that one's full of oil. Something bad happened here. Well, I wanted to take a look at the spark plug and look at it. Can you see that? Completely covered in oil. Pretty bad. I think maybe the iPhone camera can show you a little bit better. So there's the side that was burning without oil, and there's the side with. Without, with. And as you would expect, a lot of metal shavings in the oil. So good. At least we all know where the metal went. I've got the cylinder head unbolted. Let's see what we got going on. A little water. Oh, wow. So whenever I put this thing together, all of them look like this. So this one was good. I just cleaned off the carbon buildup. This one is covered in this, straight up oil. This one has an oil residue over it as well. Not nearly as bad, but it's still there. This rear one looks like it was just running rich for some reason. Kind of the same thing as number 4 right there, this one in particular. But all of them look terrible. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but, and you see this oil here, this is where, actually that's just a bolt hole. It oils through here through the block into the rocker shaft assembly. I'm wondering, I don't know what I'm wondering, to be honest with you. I think this piston might just be toast. A ring might have given way, and I just don't really feel like tearing everything apart to check that. It ain't conducive to our timing right now, unfortunately. Yeah, like all these pistons clean up perfectly fine on the top, but for the little run time it had, wow, is it bad. So in the last video, I had asked you guys to kind of, give your recommendations on what you think it might have happened. And, some of you guys got it right as far as like wiping a cam lobe. Yeah, you were on par. And I mean, that's the thing. We had one collapse, and that's when I knew, I'm like, it has to be a wiped cam lobe. That's a telltale sign. Last time that happened to me, it popped a hole right in the bottom of the lifter, and it collapsed just like this one did. But that hasn't happened in years. I still have the old lifter where I did that the very first cam I broke in, I popped the lifter. And I never wanted that to happen again, so I figured out a routine that has always worked for me. And every single camshaft break-in from that point, I have had success with it. What I always do is use moly paste because it sticks to the camshaft and it sticks to the lifters. So I always do moly paste, I set it up on top dead center, I always prime the engine beforehand, and then I do varying RPMs going back and forth from like 2500 down to 1500, down to idle, then back up to 2500, and I do that over the course of like 10 to 15 minutes. And you saw in the video, it was running great. The cam break-in went flawlessly. There was no smoke, it wasn't knocking, it wasn't rattling. But over time, it started to lose cylinders one by one. So Dad made a good point because of that, and I agree with him on this one. When that first lifter failed, it probably failed, after the cam break-in. Maybe it just stopped spinning, or maybe it was compromised in the break-in process, but after that point, it just failed and then it was done for. And when it lost oil pressure, it started to cause the other lifters to lose oil pressure. So whenever this engine is, it's routing for the oil pressure, it has to go through the lifters, pump those up before it goes to the rocker assembly. And we know that it was getting oil pressure up to the rocker assembly because I primed it ahead of time. Whoa! Oh my goodness, that was a lot of oil. But whenever it lost oil pressure at that lifter, it slowly started to drop oil pressure at the other lifters, and that's why we have so many that get wiped. And then that makes sense why the top end was pretty much bone dry. And that confused me because I'm like, how does it happen? And another theory was that I had put too thick of head gaskets on it. Now we're talking steel shim to just like aftermarket replacement Felpros. The compressed gasket thickness is like 0.1 of an inch difference. And when you're dealing with factory style rocker arms that are non-adjustable, factory style push rods, factory style lifters, and all that, that 0.01 is not gonna make that big of a difference. A lot of you guys said head gasket, and I disagree wholeheartedly on that. That's not the problem, because I have that exact same setup in this 400 that was in the truck running. I've got that exact same setup on every engine I've ever put together. I always just like to use a little thicker head gasket if I don't do any machine work to it, just because of the difference in material possibility. That slightly thicker head gasket with non-adjustable valve train assembly on hydraulic lifters, it can't be the problem, because there was zero lash. I went through and I checked every single rocker and it had zero lash in it. There was no play at all. Every other engine I've ever put together, I usually use this one. If I don't do machine work to it, I use these thicker head gaskets to compensate for the possibility that it may have some uneven surfaces. So there's no way that could have been the problem. Regardless, this 383 is out. It's gonna go on the wall here, and I'm gonna look at it maybe later on down the road. Probably could use a good set of rings, because even if the cam didn't fail, it still had a ring situation. Something went wrong with the piston rings. It was smoking like crazy. So what we're gonna do is probably tear it back apart, maybe re-ring it, just check everything, tolerances and all that good stuff, new cam, clean it out really good, and then maybe put it in something else. But for now, the 400 goes back in, and we're gonna get this thing back on the road. Well, we have this engine, pretty much all of our parts removed that we need. We got the oil pan off, the water pump housing assembly, about to pull the pickup off. We're gonna just put it back into our original 400. And we're just gonna set it up to where we're gonna drive it with the new converter and the new rear gear and see how does that seem. Like, does it seem better? And if it does, we'll put a bigger cam in it that's better suited for the converter and the gearing. It is what it is, folks. I'm just gonna do what we can and make it better in any way possible. So Briar is working on cleaning up some stuff, and we're gonna take this one off the stand, put this one on it so we can get our oil pan on properly. I should have just stuck with this one. Hindsight's 20/20 though. Well, we did a good old-fashioned switcheroo. So everything that we took off this engine originally and put on the 383 is now back on it, including all the water pump housing, accessories, pulleys, you name it, it's back on here. Realistically, it's just like we pull the transmission and put a converter in it. So kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, about.
Yeah, just triple the labor and hours. So it's fine, everything's fine. Well, a lot of time has passed, but we have the engine in the truck. It's basically plumbed back, it's wired. We should be ready to fire this thing up as soon as we get fuel to it. Another thing that we did, if you can look down in there, we added headers to it. So these are just some truck long tubes that were laying around. We're gonna see if that is gonna help a little bit. I mean, we did have headers on it before, but these are long tubes going all the way out the back of the truck, or at least underneath it. I just really hope that our plug wires have enough room to not get burnt. I mean, I know it's gonna run, but I just hope that that converter and that gear are gonna just kind of counteract each other, you know what I mean? So I'm really, really curious to see how this thing drives. All right, here we go. See if it'll crank now. Probably not. All right, advance the timing. It's plugged in, everything's in. Try it. Try it again. Woo! We're just now getting to the point of where is what it was doing last time, so I can't really advance it much more than that. Try that. Dang. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Move some plug wires, okay? Advance it, okay? Just ain't enough advance. Try it again. Okay. I feel good about this one. Remove the plug wires one more time. Okay.
run out of gas. Hurry, hurry. Yeah. Woo! Dang. Good Lord. Woo, man. Dang. So that thing, it ran way better than I've ever heard it run because of two reasons. Now, back whenever I had this thing running originally, it had a spark plug that was closed. I do know that happened, and then I just forgot about it when it was parked. And then when we started pulling the spark plugs out of it, I remembered finding that one, so we opened it up. So now we're running on 8. So in the last video, this thing was running on 7 cylinders, and with those headers, wow. Thing was way snappier than I ever have revved it before. Like, this thing is a totally different truck now. So we're gonna go ahead and fill it up with transmission fluid. I had to empty it out because the dipstick tube. They're all coming out. Oh, the wasps are coming out again? Oh, yeah, they are. Whoa, okay, that's a little. No. Oh, no, all right, buddy, go in the gas. R.I.P. you. There was a wasp nest buried all up in there. But anyway, like, this thing, like I said, it did not ever run this good. And that's partly, I think, because of that spark plug wire. But this thing ought to be, I don't know. Like, it's a totally different animal now. That is shocking. Oh, does the dome light work?
It does.
I didn't know it worked. Has it ever worked?
I think it did.
Huh, I've never noticed that. But yeah, this thing, totally different. Man, wow, that thing sounded good. We're full of transmission fluid now. Got coolant levels pretty good. We're not really up to temp yet, but we've got great oil pressure. This thing is really snappy. I just want to see how the converter acts. Basically, just kind of give it a little streetability. I don't know. Just see how it does going in gear. Because I never really got to test that whenever we were, running it earlier. Because I was on 5 cylinders. So first off, let me see. That works. Flooded it. Now that's what I wanted. Finally. Man. That wasn't but like half throttle too.
Dang.
Just, yeah, it's a good converter. Good gear too. Woo! Of course the transmission pan still leaks after rigorous amounts of trying to fix it, but that was a lot of work. You know what? That was stupidly just trying to do too much with something that I didn't have anything, knowing about. So anyway, we did it.
Ain't nothing. No.
carburetor.
Well, I'm proud we finally got a big block that runs in this truck, but I want this thing to look better. Now, this is a factory black truck with red interior, so I think we can really kind of spiff it up a little bit. And by spiff it up, I mean, check this out. So I buffed this spot of the paint. Look at that. Is that not incredible? Look at the reflection. I mean, obviously the paint isn't perfect because it's got some scratches and chips in it. And I just did this by hand. Wow. So I want to do the whole truck.
So I backed it out and gave it a quick wash, and you can see the truck cleaned up pretty good. But look at the difference. I mean, there's just no comparison here. And while I was washing it, I mean, the water beads up really nicely. The paint on this truck is actually very good to be original. I mean, we do have a little rust right there. Same thing on the other side, but this is totally usable for what we have planned for it. And really the only bad spot in the paint is right here. It looks like somebody tried to fix this with paint. I don't know, it looks like maybe this spot right here had maybe worn off or whatever the case may be, and then they tried to paint over it, but they didn't do a very good job of like masking it and then blending it in. So it looks like they just did it with spray paint. So I don't know what's going to happen here. This is the worst spot on the whole truck, but we'll see what we can make happen with it. See the stains in it? I mean, there's just like, it's hard to see maybe on camera, but you can just see where like water has run over these little plugs here. It just kind of stained the paint over time, but I think we can get a lot of that out and bring a lot of that shine back with it. So look here, see the before and after? Just wait.
think the hood's about as good as it's gonna get. You can see there's still some clarity issues. It's kind of foggy. The problem is that if I buff on this thing any harder to get some of that clarity out, we're gonna start burning through some paint. As you can see, I mean, it was already thin in places, but I didn't help it. So, I mean, the fact that this hood has had sun damage for so long, is it gonna matter? Ignore my flickering lights. They went out the other night, so it is what it is. But it's better. It's certainly better compared to what it was. I mean, it's gonna look good when it's all on the truck, but when you're doing it with black paint, you want it to look like glass basically, but it's better. I just wish that I could get some of that fogginess out. But, you know, again, this gets the most exposure to sun. So the fact that it even has any like reflection left in it makes me happy. So we're gonna put this back on, and then we should have a good looking truck when it's all said and done. Well, there it is. It ain't perfect, but man, is it better. I'm just shocked that it actually cleaned up as good as it did. I mean, to my knowledge and what I believe, I think this is all original paint. And just by how good it looks, man, I'm surprised. It looks really good. This side right here, when I bought it, this side, the driver's side was up against a building, so I don't think it got as much direct sunlight. But this side was a little bit worse, so it took a lot of effort to bring back a lot of that shine and get rid of that hazing. But now that it's gone, wow. And I wish this was gone too. It's gonna have to be wet sanded. But the problem is that there's something, looks like paint's gone underneath it, whatever it is. But it don't look like it looks like it goes down to here. So we'd have to wet sand that and then buff it again. And realistically, it would need to be repainted to make it look as good as the rest of the truck. But I am very surprised. I mean, the hood was a battle because it would not get a hazing out of it. Most of it did come out, but I mean, like I said, we're starting to run into like burning paint, and I don't want to do that. So really, the biggest thing I'd like to do now, as far as looks wise, I mean, it's going to need a set of wheels. We've got to get these mirrors cleaned up and better looking, and then we need to get a windshield for it. But other than that, man, does it look good. I'm very happy with how this thing turned out. Here's our second test drive, but this is the first one completely put together. I did a little timing adjustment, so this thing has 22 degrees of mechanical advance, and it's all in at 3,000 RPM. I had it at 10 degrees initial, thereabouts, and I added just a little bit more timing because when you rump on it, it backfires to the carburetor, and I felt like it might be just a little bit late timing. So hopefully adding I think I like it?
Oh yeah. I like them highway gears in 43 and cruise now.
We need a set of wheels and tires for it now. That'd fix a lot of stuff. Maybe some drag radials or something.
As long as the ones off the blue car. They're 8s on the back.
Well, I realized I need to do one more pass with the buffer, but I forgot to do that on this side. But the other side looks pretty good. I did a good pass, you know, on the hood, and then over on this side saw the swirls were out of it, but I did not get the passenger side. But man, it shines so much better. I want to get this dang Harley Davidson sticker off of here and get all the tint off of it. We were able to get the windows to roll down. Briar cleaned up our mirrors for us, so they were brown with rust, but now they're just like slightly. If you stand back here, you can't even tell there's rust on it. How about that? So we need a good set of wheels and tires, a good windshield, just a few other things to make this truck really good, and then we will do a little more tuning on it. I might try and loosen up the secondaries one more time to see if that helps any, but you know, it's got that first hit, that bog. Heck, it might even be too loose, because maybe it needs to be tightened up a little bit so they come in a little bit faster. So I'll try and tighten them up first and see if that helps. Put on a show for Dad. Show him what it'll do.
Well, folks, I must admit, this truck right here, it's something else. The big block, man, I mean, there is so much to gain from having just a torque monster out of the gate. I know the 400s get a bad rap, but with the proper induction system and exhaust, I mean, you can really turn this thing around. A lot of it has to do with a good intake, good cam, good exhaust, good timing curve, and they will come alive. I mean, everything else besides that on this 400 is bone stock, and it will fly. I absolutely love this thing. Now, hopefully the next time you see this thing, it'll have better wheels and tires. I'm gonna try and fix the windshield, clean up the interior a little bit, get it to where it runs and drives a little bit better, and we're gonna have to sort out that transmission. I hope that the transmission was just low on fluid. I did fill it back up and it seemed to be okay, but I don't know. We're gonna find that out here shortly. If not, I've got others, so no biggie there. So I really have fallen in love with this truck. I'm so happy that it's finally usable again, and where you might have to put some exhaust on it, I don't know. My neighbors don't seem to enjoy open header big blocks doing burnouts too much, but I mean, why wouldn't you? I don't know. So regardless, this thing is cool, it's back on the road, it's a big block, and it runs, drives, stops, and it does a mean burnout. So I would like to take this thing to an 1/8 mile drag strip here local to us. Again, we've got to figure some stuff out, like that stumble. I've got most of it out, but I'm afraid if this thing actually hooks, it's just gonna die, you know? So, but it runs cool, it runs great. I mean, no issues other than that. So with some fine tuning, some tweaking, this thing will be so much different. So really looking forward to getting this thing kind of dialed in, and like I said, I want to take this thing racing at some point. So regardless of all that, I'm happy. I'm so excited that we figured out our engine issues, we figured out everything else. Now we just have to finish the tune. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave a comment. T-shirts and stickers are down in the link below. Also, do not forget Fishing Clash. My code is Dylan McCool. It's down in the link in the description below. Don't miss out on that opportunity, and thank you guys for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching, and I appreciate all that you guys have done for me. I'll see you in the next one.